So, I mean, that's the Green Party. If we want to dig even further down, let's talk CPUSA. And this is going to be kind of our feature for today. One of these articles is super long. We'll get into some comments after this. I think if you want to write your comments now, we'll get to the comments at the end. So this I just posted on the community tab today. This is from Red Help ATX on Substack. And this used to be the Communist Party CPUSA Austin chapter. But that chapter has now been kicked out of CPUSA for fighting the party. So we have talked a number of times about, everybody knows that the locals in CPUSA are good. There's a lot of people who listen to this channel in those locals, and they're trying to do what they can. But the national leadership is horrifically reformist, opportunist. They plug the Democratic Party. Their media is terrible. But if this is what's going to happen to all of the locals that fight the national in any significant way, I'm not sure you're going to get very far. But we're going to look at this article. We're going to look at an article from Unity Struggle Unity. And we're going to also look at a petition that was circulated, which I believe is referenced in this article too. So this is from 2 days ago, July 16. I want to thank the several people who sent in these articles. Austin Moving On is the title. On the evening of Monday, July 15, 2024, the Austin, Texas chapter of the Communist Party USA was liquidated by members of the Texas District Committee. The district claims that this vote was unanimous, but the representative from Austin was not made aware that this meeting was taking place, nor was she allowed to defend her club or participate in the vote. The accusations made toward Austin comrades are factionalism and refusal to follow the party line on 4 issues. Did this necessitate dissolving the whole thing? But anyway, so the 4 issues are 2 delegates leaving during the Israeli speech at the National Convention in June 2024, not being fully on board, voting for Biden and the Democrats, aka Resolution 5. 3, in-house open discussion of the petition and the reasons for its creation. We urged comrades not to sign it. And being accused of black nationalism and following the Black Panther Party playbook with our mutual aid work. Let us address these accusations individually. Yes, 2 of us left during the Israeli speech at the convention. Is quietly walking out against the rules? No grand walkout nor vocal statement was made. We simply disagreed with what the man was saying. We thought that inviting him to speak after the Palestinian speaker canceled was bad optics. We stand by this belief. When should comrades dissent if not at the National Convention? Rather than having a comradely discussion on the issue, one of the party co-chairs chose to make passive-aggressive statements in her closing speech. Quote, "When you walk out on the representative from Israel, you are walking out on the Arab working class." We disagree with the validity of her statement. Free Palestine. Also, yes, we dissented on Resolution 5, as did half of the delegates present at the convention. Again, when should comrades dissent, if not at the National Convention? The party claims that this vote against MAGA, well, for a long time, look up hashtag vote against fascism. They've been doing this for years. They claim that that resolution is not a vote for Biden demand, although several party members quite literally stated a need to support Biden and the Democratic Party during the shortened convention discussion. That's what they always say. It's like, well, we're just like vote against Trump, vote against fascism. First of all, because that's definitely how you defeat fascism, right? But second of all, they do always end up making arguments for voting for the Democrats. I don't hear them running their own candidate. I don't hear them endorsing the Greens or any other party. So vote against MAGA. I vote against MAGA. I've never voted for MAGA, but that doesn't mean vote for Biden. And also, like, the obsession with electoralism in this sense as this kind of like crucial, thing here just shows how far away they've gotten from what we normally understand as communist principles. On the last day of the convention, a white party elder from Connecticut gave a speech calling all dissenters on Resolution 5 racist and chauvinist for refusing to support a genocidal bourgeois administration, also making the statement, Black and brown comrades fought and died for the right to vote, and you don't want to? Wow. So, very interesting. It should go without saying, I mean, you can find that in any kind of shit-lib, Joe Biden, I'm with her kind of social media crowd. Is this what CPUSA has devolved into? It should go without saying, but Joe Biden has a long history of racism against black Americans. He is right now actively contributing to the genocide of the Palestinian people. Several black and brown comrades spoke against Resolution 5, and a white woman accusing them of racism is disgusting and unacceptable. Many of us were sent a Comradely petition the week after the CPUSA National Convention. The petition was a demand to reopen discussion around Resolution 5 before the National Committee was slated to vote on it. The Austin delegation was in agreement that the petition was silly and not the correct path forward, but that it was important to understand why it was created. Many rank-and-file comrades feel that they are not represented by the National Committee. The fact that the discussion around this contentious resolution was cut short added to those feelings, and we will read that petition in a few minutes. All of the Austin delegates advocated against local comrades signing the petition. We did, however, give space for discussion at our local meeting. As many comrades were talking about leaving and searching for a new organization, we also gave space for this discussion. The discussion was very respectful and productive. Some comrades shared that they were ready to leave. Most stated that they preferred to stay and struggle under the CPUSA banner. A rat within our organization, who was not present at the National Convention nor at the local meeting, leaked internal documents to members of the Texas District Committee. They used these documents without context to frame our discussions as factionalism. Comrades, if you're suspicious of someone within your organization, trust that feeling. And let me add, you also have to verify, because we don't want to go around just fed-jacketing people or whatever, but people do set off red flags sometimes, and you got to follow up and test that hunch further. But I just wanted to add here, I may do more of a video on this at some point later, but this is a person, Morris Childs, who worked for CPUSA for some time and was also working for the Soviets, but then was also working for the FBI. And then this was a problem during Gus Hall's, one of Gus Hall's campaigns later, because he was very close to Gus Hall, who was a presidential candidate for CPUSA. So, yeah, that definitely can and does happen. And, we don't want to just walk around snitch jacketing, but at the same time, realize that this is a thing. So back to the thing. The most bothersome reason for liquidation is this accusation of black nationalism levied because we read from members of the Black Panther Party and we participate in mutual aid work. First, one major problem within the local chapter is that we currently have no black members. Austin, Texas is the only growing major city in the U.S. with a shrinking black population. This is mostly due to rapid gentrification, thanks to the ongoing tech sector boom and rising cost of living. Historically, black neighborhoods are being demolished for, quote, modern developments, which have caused property taxes to rise rapidly and out of control. Austin is becoming unaffordable for much of the working class, but our black and immigrant neighbors are the most affected by the rising cost of living. Second, we see no issue with the concept of black nationalism as described by Malcolm X and the Black Panther Party. While this is not something that we, as a majority white chapter, are openly advocating for, why does CPUSA see black nationalism as a threat to their working class movement? It is up to those of us who do not live the black experience to educate ourselves as much as possible on how to support our black neighbors, their needs, and understand their experiences. Black nationalism is simply self-determination. Let me just add here for context that this has been a struggle within CPUSA, like going back to the 30s. And actually, as we're doing the anti-Browderism, anti-revisionist playlist right now, this is something that actually in the beginning, even of the very centrist and mild anti-Browderist document, Marxism-Leninism versus Revisionism, which is a collection of essays, in the intro to that, one of the things that they slammed Browder for was that he was rejecting the Black Belt thesis, which is closely connected with the idea of black Americans being a nation. And this was a struggle in CPUSA. Browder fought against it, and then others brought it back, and then the party crushed it again, I believe in the late 50s. And so it's been a contentious issue. The anti-black nationalism thing has been within the revisionist current of CPUSA for decades and decades, just for a little more context. Third, mutual aid is the most important work that we do in our community, period. We were told that organizing with the lumpen proletariat is against the CPUSA party program. During our many reads of the program, we have yet to come across such a passage. One major flaw in the party is the lack of education around mutual aid and community defense programs, and some of us have brought this up on appropriate occasions. We do also participate in the local electoral struggle as commanded by the party. I'm not hearing any mention of labor here, but okay. Mutual aid, and I have nothing against mutual aid work whatsoever, which, by the way, doesn't just affect the lumpen proletariat, but whatever. Mutual aid is important for many reasons. The most obvious is that we are literally helping vulnerable people. Why would a communist not want to help those in need? It is also a way to meet and work with other individuals and organizations doing similar work in our neighborhoods. This is how we build alliances. It is also how we build community trust. Communism can be a scary word in the USA, and when people meet us out in the streets helping each other, we begin to build trust, and that is normal. So this is what happened to the Austin, Texas chapter of the Communist Party USA. We no longer exist. Comrades were given the option to reapply to the party and begin rebuilding from scratch. That's purely punitive. Everything we built over the last 3 years is gone. Most of us, including local leadership, are moving on. We have already begun to rebrand as a mutual aid organization and have set up a meeting in a few weeks. We will be okay, and the work will continue. Stay vigilant, comrades. Take care of each other. Support your community. We are all we have. Okay, so that's the end of their statement. You know, whatever's the case, those sound like very well-meaning people, and CPUSA, I mean, we know what they have been up to for a while now, and just dissolving that group, how is that the appropriate step? I think that's outrageous, honestly. Let's get into this more. So this is from the Red Clarion. This is put out by Unity Struggle Unity, and it's called Support the Struggle Within the CPUSA. And the date on this is late June, so about a month ago. And, so obviously prior to the Austin situation. Let's get into it. The editorial board of Red Clarion stands in solidarity with the brave communists in CPUSA who are fighting for the democratic rights one expects in a, quote, party that claims to adhere to any kind of democratic centralism. The letter we have published below came to us through third-party hands. Unity Struggle Unity Press has no membership in the CPUSA and has no influence on the party's internal politics, save for what we publish. It is clear that the leadership of this party, rightly referred to as a den of vipers in the letter below, has no intention of permitting revolutionary organizing of any kind, let alone true proletarian democracy, to flourish. The manner in which their party members, the individuals who have devoted their blood and flesh to the cause of revolution, have been treated for voicing even the most tepid and lukewarm dissent with the anti-democratic practices enforced by the party leadership clique is disgusting and amounts to nothing less than abuse. Well put. Because remember, in an organization, like, you're really giving a lot of yourself usually, and getting shut down like this is it's disgusting. I mean, it's insulting on such a deep level as to just provoke disgust. So anyway, we at USU are thrilled to see that the struggle within CPUSA is intensifying. We lament the cowardice of the party's leadership as it fleeces its members, expels them without process, and contravenes its own already undemocratic constitution to prevent any dissent. The CPUSA leadership has clearly been educated in what it means to be a communist by the U.S. State Department, and the communists do not permit even a whiff of argument to reach their sainted ears. We agree with the embattled communists in CPUSA who are fighting for its democracy, its very life. A party which does not maintain internal democracy is not a party, and it will not last long. We at the Red Clarion have already made our assessment as to the actual class forces in control of the CPUSA. There's a link there for people who want to check that out. And the 32nd convention bore out that analysis. Nevertheless, we retain hope that we were mistaken and that the brave fighters for communism who still live and breathe within the oppressive, stultifying, abusive atmosphere of the CPUSA succeed in reintroducing a party democracy that has not existed since the 1940s at least. Even if you disagree with us, we urge you to read the letter below and judge it on its merits. Read the evidence that has been presented. Read of the treatment of CPUSA members, hounded and harried by the National Committee, a disgusting perversion of the term nation, which any Marxist-Leninist would know, and literally driven underground in their own party. Decide for yourself whether or not these heroic efforts against the entire current of the CPUSA stream are deserving of praise and solidarity. Do not take the word of confessed liquidators. Do not take our word for it. Investigate. All right, so here's the beginning of the letter. And this person's name is at the bottom. I can't remember it off the top of my head. There's like 50 screens in this, so it's quite long. Comrades, this is another update on the Comradely petition to the National Committee, which can be found at tinyurl.com/CPUSA petition. Today, I would like to cover the following topics. 1, the intention behind the petition. 2, the argument about Joe Sims's, I guess that is, main report, co-chair, and the factionalism argument. So this is the petition I'm adding that the Austin comrades were saying they thought was silly and they didn't support, or they were arguing for people not to sign that. But let's take a look at it. So this is a Comradely petition to the National Committee of the CPUSA. And let me say, I've skimmed through this and there's a lot of language in here. This is comradely. We don't mean to do this, that. Look, they're never going to, you can omit all of that. If they're really this against dissent, it's not going to matter, how many times. It's kind of like the thing that people say to DSA. People who don't like socialism aren't going to like it even if you just put democratic in the title. You can put comradely up and down in every sentence of this. They're still going to just be it's a challenge to power. We must purge you. So my first thoughts. But anyway, dear comrades, we, comrade members of the CPUSA, voice our concern over the unfortunate lack of discussion and deliberation over the proposed and, as of yet, unresolved resolution on the upcoming 2024 elections, Resolution 5. So this is about the basically vote against MAGA, vote against fascism thing that CPUSA always does on their website and social media, and they always get bashed appropriately for it. But and people are actually standing up against it within the party. Good for you. Good for you. But, what happened? We believe such discussion by party members, especially at the National Convention, the leading body of our party, is necessary in order to strengthen the party and enable it to act at the critical juncture in which we find ourselves. As we all know, the strength of the party is our collective work and democratic decision-making. We believe that the facilitators of the 32nd National Convention unfortunately acted in violation of the Constitution of the party when they placed artificial limitations on the discussion around this critical issue. Examples of such breaches in constitutionality include disregard of opposition voiced during the proposal of the rules of the National Convention, extreme and unnecessary limiting of discussion time on the 2024 elections resolution, a disregard of a motion for division on the aforementioned resolution during its discussion, and the cultivation of a restrictive environment unconducive to fruitful and comradely discussion. Therefore, we call for democratic discussion to be reopened and resumed on the proposed resolution on the 2024 elections so that all opinions of party membership may be represented and heard. 2, the democratic discussion to take the form of a special national convention as specified in Article 6, Section 4 of the CPUSA Constitution. Point 3, this special national convention to focus on coming to a democratic decision on the resolution by delegates elected to this convention. 4, state and district committees of the party to vote for a special national convention to take place. 5, comrade members to raise the above points in their respective party collectives to discuss and vote in favor of these calls. It is with a deep reverence for the tradition and history of our party that we put forward these calls. It is also with great respect for the leaders of our party who have persevered through periods of both persecution and growth, and to whom we are thus indebted that we put forward these calls. And so they go on, again, it's so apologetic and, this is a controversial issue within our party, but it shouldn't be neglected and left to fester. We're not trying to hold up progress, but to make it happen. It is unfortunate that such practices took place and violations occurred, but we believe that they can be rectified in a comradely way. Well, not so sure. We make these calls not in the spirit of antagonism. Like, again, if you're feeling a need to just like make half of your letter like don't hit us basically, or like, you know, you're already anticipating the gaslighting that they're going to do, you're in an abusive situation. You know, we make these calls not in the spirit of antagonism, but in the spirit of camaraderie and democracy, so that all members may be heard. Like, a functioning organization doesn't need all these kind of, you know, preconditions and sort of prefaces to the statement. Anyway, with the ongoing genocide in Gaza at the hands of the fascistic Netanyahu government, with military, diplomatic, and financial support from the Biden administration, it's reasonable that many comrades disagree with the party's position on supporting the Democrats. These comrades expected that such disagreements would be voiced in an open environment for a fully necessary amount of time at the National Convention in the spirit of democratic centralism. That was a reasonable expectation. Indeed, it was. Regardless of one's position on the issue, we believe at the very least that we can all agree that this issue remains unresolved and that it merits more discussion with input from all sectors of party membership. We thereby present this petition for a special convention, etc., and that it's signed by a lot of people. I've started the list there, but you can also see the rest of the list there in extremely small print. So let's go back. But that was the thing, and Austin thought that was, I guess, a silly waste of time. But I mean, it makes sense. You know, like I said, I think it's worded in a way that suggests a very abusive environment, in my opinion. But you know, I think the heart of it makes sense. So anyway, back to the letter. The intention behind the petition. I'll begin by reiterating the intention behind it. There's a dire need to separate truth from falsehood. Despite the numerous accusations, theories, and rumors, and I'm skipping a little bit ahead here because this is very long. Despite the numerous accusations, theories, and rumors which have circulated about myself and other signatories, all it calls for is more discussion on Resolution 5 regarding the 2024 elections, discussion on the question of our support for the Democratic Party, which is like crazy. People are getting kicked out for standing up to that in the Communist Party of the United States. Crazy. Supposed to be the standard bearer, and they're fucking purging people over this. Get that fucking leadership out. Get Sims out. Get everybody in his orbit out. Get them out, or this party has no chance. And again, in the comments at the end, we will go over what do people think. Do you think you can fix this party, or should they move on? We'll get to that at the end. This is only due to the irregularities of the 32nd National Convention surrounding this question and no others. The way this question was handled at the convention was straightforwardly unconstitutional, as I will show. Let me make myself very clear. The petition is not about my or others' position. It is not about party policy, let alone against the policy. It merely acknowledges what should be clear to everyone. Party membership is divided on the elections issue, that the disagreement was supposed to be discussed and resolved at the convention, and that there was a targeted curtailing of the discussion necessary to arrive at a point of unity. So basically the discussion was cut off. It calls for the unfortunate mistakes that led to this outcome to be rectified rather than swept under the rug. These mistakes should be rectified not because any of us is upset that their position lost and they want it to win. They should be rectified because true united action is not possible without comprehensive mutual understanding, which is part of democratic centralism. So there's free discussion before, but then unity once a decision has been reached. And if you're not having that full discussion, full and free discussion ahead of time, then you're just having people ramming decisions down your throats, and there's not democracy. We do not all have to agree, but we do have to hear each other out. Those with one perspective on the issue were given ample time to express their position. Those with other perspectives were not. 5 minutes is not sufficient time to thoroughly discuss any serious issue, and certainly not the most contentious issue in the party with historical significance. This is bad not just for one side, but for the whole party. And anyway, they kind of go on about this for a while. You can see it on the screen. I am going to skip ahead a little bit because we're still on screen 9 and there are 50. So, you know, they're really just kind of going on. Claims to the contrary have been made, relying not on evidence but on conspiracy theories about, quote, outside Maoists or some other group pulling the strings. And then they add in parentheses, can someone please tell me who Dr. Thomas Riggins is? Interesting. So I can tell you who Thomas Riggins is, actually. We'll put it on the screen, but basically what they're saying is, discussion was limited to 5 minutes. That was inadequate discussion. And then, of course, went in the direction of we're going to support the Democrats. And anybody, to the contrary, it's because they're mad and there's like outside Maoists or whatever trying to poison the decision. Well, who is Thomas Riggins? He is counseling director of the Midwit Marx Institute. Midwestern Mussolini Institute. So that's who he is. So I don't know if this guy's in CPUSA, but apparently that's where some of this was coming from. Or I don't even know if he's like on the outside of CPUSA and still just trying to like influence it. But for people who aren't familiar, these are revisionist, opportunists, veering into fascism, and the whole PATSOC, infracell, Caleb Maupin kind of sphere. That's who they are. And so he's counseling director for that group. Anyway, as a result, what should have been a benign point of discussion within clubs became something much larger and apparently far scarier. Club discussions have been shut down across the country. Members have been purged unfairly, and others have been strongly reprimanded. I myself was met with a corrective action meeting late in the night this past Sunday, June 23rd. I wasn't informed that this is what it would be. I was told it was merely a meeting, but it was a meeting in which the leadership began the process of formally purging me. So this is what's going on in the CPUSA at this point. And, I guess I'm going to jump down. I'll put the link to this so that people can read it in detail. I really don't have the time right now. They do I'll put something on the screen. They do a thorough breakdown of how this is unconstitutional in the CPUSA. So they quote the Constitution, Article 3, membership, Section 4. The Constitution says every member of the party shall have an equal opportunity to participate in the collective analysis of the current political situation and to plan and carry out the work of the party. Every member shall have an equal vote in the elections of the party collectives to which that member belongs. But counterpoint, what actually happened, members have been removed from chats. And there's screenshots of this below. Members have been removed from online chats and clubs across the country for discussing the petition. Incidentally, the same thing happened in PCUSA, Party of Nazballs USA, over the Chris Halali thing several years ago, and they just deleted the Discord. So this is what they do when there's actual democratic discussion happening. This violates comrades' right to an equal opportunity to participate in analysis, planning, and carrying out the work of the party. I'll give you another example from their breakdown. Section 7. Members of the Communist Party shall work to strengthen the labor unions, civil rights, peace, youth, student, religious, and other community organizations and social networks in which they participate. They shall promote the voice and effective participation of the working class. They shall promote unity with allies of the working class in the course of fighting for common goals. But counterpoint, a National Committee member removed an LA Metro chapter member from a non-party community organization chat due to completely unrelated contention over the petition. Wow. Another example here, Section 4. Between national conventions, the National Committee is responsible for the enforcement of the Constitution and carrying out the policies and plans adopted by the National Convention. Counterpoint. National Committee members violated the constitutions to serve their own interests. They subverted the procedure of the National Convention in order to prevent it from rejecting policies which they support. And then quoting the Constitution again, Section 7, summaries and reports of National Committee meetings shall be made available to state and district committee and shall appear in digest form, in printed or electronic form, available to the party membership. Counterpoint, the National Committee, which should do this 3 times per year or more, has not issued any reports on its meetings to state and district committees in several years at least. It is unknown when it issued its last report. So I don't mean to breeze over this because they really do an extensive job of breaking down the many ways in which the CPUSA Constitution was violated. You see a few more examples on the screen. I'm probably skipping over half of them just for the interest of time. But I want to get down to more of the evidence that they've presented here in the form of screenshots. So there was a petition labeled as factionalism with no justification, and that was signed by the co-chairs. So there's a North Carolina district resolution calling to break from the Democratic Party. So what were they saying? It says, and this is good work from people within the CPUSA. Whereas we must note the Democratic Party's position on world imperialism and repression at home, Democrats have allowed the genocide of the Palestinians, continued Trump-era policies around Cuba, and failed to prevent the overturning of Roe v. Wade, allowing the continued, slowly increasing violent repression by the police against students on university campuses. Whereas the Democratic Party is a bourgeois party, as such, its function is to maintain capitalist hegemony within the U.S. at all costs. This includes broken promises toward indigenous communities, continued and increased funding of police and other violent repression in the black community, continuing to place asylum seekers in cages and camps where they're abused, and continuing the constitutionally allowed enslavement of prisoners in the penal system. Therefore, be it resolved that the CPUSA reassess its stance on the Democratic Party, recognizing that our current stance hinders organizing in communities negatively impacted by them. Be it finally resolved that the CPUSA must recognize and condemn the complicity as well as the active participation of the Democratic Party in the violent repression of the proletariat, especially the BIPOC proletariat, which have suffered so greatly at the hands of settler colonialism, chattel slavery, and being sacrificed on the altar of capital. So there you go. You got some people trying to, like, this is crazy that we're in 2024 and this needs to be said. Like, you're really, putting yourself at risk of being purged and really like fighting the powers that be within the party by making such an obvious statement. Anyway, so they go on with a lot of different pieces of evidence. I'll let you look at that. It includes people being kicked out of chat and all kinds of other stuff, people being expelled from not just chat groups, but actual membership. And so we can go down into the comments to see where this ends up. And so here's a poster named Sarah who says, I heartily concur with the letter and spirit of the petition. At the same time, I cannot share the perspective of endeavoring to save our party in its present format, which I guess is the conclusion of the letter. For all the sound and pertinent protests encapsulated so comprehensively here, the party structure is such that preservation of frozen thoughts is immutable. I have been in the party for 57 years. I have lived through many conventions in which ossified ideas went, I think that's a typo, went undiscussed, but nevertheless poured down the throats of members. The Ventura Club dishonored, disqualified. The East LA Club disregarded. Really? Do you think that this is the first time in the past 40 years that this has happened? Even to these clubs? Look at the slate for North Carolina, so aptly included in the communication. Scott M. from Illinois, again. Roberta W., again. For how long? Is the party leadership some sort of inherited royalty? Yes, it is, and not worth saving. Suppression of righteous dissent is not only a hallmark of its current bankruptcy, but a time-honored way of life in the party. This is a sinking ship to abandon. So USU, Unity Struggle Unity, replied to this, saying, Hi, Sarah, we agree with your position. This is why we have been encouraging members of the CPUSA to leave and take their entire clubs with them if they can. See, for instance, How to Leave a Rotten Party. There's an article link there. And our little mini history of the CPUSA's revisionism and anti-democratic manipulation. Another link. We are urging this first and foremost because until the large revisionist organizations are discredited thoroughly in the eyes of the advanced workers, amen, we won't be able to form the basis of a new party that can actually advance the cause of revolution. To form this party, to conduct unification procedures with local organizations, like clubs that have departed other revisionist parties, is one of Unity Struggle Unity's goals. If you or your trusted comrades would like to submit anything to the Clarion, we would love to carry it, and if you would like to be kept informed about unification procedures, we would urge you to write to us at usueditorial@protonmail.com. So it continues. Sarah gets a heckler, actually, in the comments. And it's just so par for the course for the fucking abusive CPUSA bullshit that I've seen online. So anonymous CPUSA member says, Hi, Sarah, could you cite a specific example from 30 or 40 years ago or some detail that only someone in the party 57 years would know? It seems suspicious that you're asking comrades fighting for democracy to give up the struggle as it is just gaining momentum. I mean, the kind of momentum where the Austin chapter just got tossed out, but sure. So Sarah replied, "You have raised a good question, my anonymous comrade. For all the party's current lauding of members who quit, dead or alive, the fact that most never returned to the fold is too often glossed over. Let us cite the example of the late Charlene Mitchell, a party leader for a good 50 years who left and never went back after 1991. One may also point to Angela Davis in this light. They and others Angela Davis, at one time the VP candidate for CPUSA. They and others came to view the party as the wrong place for them to be, yet they never cast their lot with the class foe. Herbert Aptheker, who knew a thing or two about what it means to be a communist, stated concisely, this is no longer a communist party. With few exceptions, the party lost nearly all the members and clubs in Northern California back then. With few exceptions, nearly every member of the Teachers Club in New York quit the party. With some exceptions, entire clubs withdrew from the party in Southern California. Louis Weinstock, labor hero and militant trade unionist, could not get himself to stay in the party. Forget the weak-kneed and faint of heart, for a moment, the ones who fell prey to bourgeois illusion. I am speaking of some of the strongest Marxist-Leninists in the party who had defended its soundness and principles to the end. Every new turn in party history yields devoted critics who believe that they are starting something from scratch without precedent, as if history began on the day that they joined the party. I've seen this happen too, in organizations where it's like people build stuff up for 3 to 5 years, and then everybody quits or gets purged, and then the process just keeps cycling through. Where it's like, if your local club or chapter or whatever of the organization you're in, lost all of its members several years ago, there's probably a good reason for that. You should definitely learn more about that. As if history is a dead letter rather than a continuous struggle. So Anonymous got back to them and said, sorry, Sarah, I'm a little skeptical of your story. I think all the information you shared is accessible publicly. Also, your story is that you joined in 1967, but sided with CCDS in 1991 and didn't leave the party like most who were. And you have a problem with the party today, even though leadership is now controlled by CCDS-aligned individuals. They presented greetings from Angela Davis at the convention. So Sarah replied, forgive me for not following your instructions. Citing a specific event from my party membership over the past 30 to 40 years is not hard, but I may have misread your directions that it not be part of the publicly available record. I do not customarily accept assignments from anonymous people. By the way, I never left the party. I never joined the CCDS. I will not name names, but if it's specifics you desire, here goes. When I joined, we had hundreds of party clubs in the U.S. I will tell you where they were. As far as my hometown is concerned, there were scores. I belonged to several, and I led educationals at others. None of them exist today. Every single one, gone. Brownsville, Crown Heights, Bay Ridge, Flatbush, Bensonhurst, Fort Greene, Bedford-Stuyvesant, Upper West Side, Harlem, East Harlem, Co-op City, Lower East Side, Artists Club, my uncle was in it, Garment Club, Furrier's Club, Auto Club in Rahway, East Side Club, Astoria Club, Staten Island Club, Lawyers Club, Doctors Club, Teachers Club, College Teachers Club, Coney Island Club, La Pasionaria Club, Brighton Club, another uncle, Manhattan Beach Club, and others. Whether by neighborhood or industry, these clubs were steaming in activity. You ask for proof beyond documentary corroboration? You mean examples not in FBI records? Activities that I experienced, supported, and reconsidered? Blunders I witnessed? No problem. Okay, one of my first petition campaigns was for a party candidate for state assembly. This comrade is long gone, but his name was Eddie P., a known figure circa 1969. He ran once and then we forgot about it. No follow-up, nothing. We did not continue any of the activities stemming from it. Need another? A fellow named Sam ran for similar office as an open red early 70s. I campaigned for him under the damn elevated subway. Where? You figure it out. Outstanding community leader, one of our own. We had a community center that sprung out of it, and then we didn't. Gave it up. Pure surrender. More? We put together in 1983 5 busloads of people to the commemoration march of the original March on Washington. I spoke at several churches in this regard. I was not the only communist to do so. I'm speaking solely of my own club. On my bus, we recruited 40 people to the party. Yes, we did. And then, gone. Where were we? What happened? That 1 million people have come into and out of the CPUSA since the 30s is both noble and sad. Why did they leave? Whose fault was it? Mind you, I did not join our party of activities during the McCarthy period when the party's legality was under attack and more than 100 went to prison. The recruits to whom I refer came to our party at a much better time, a period of genuine radicalization. And then they quit. The party gave me the chance to campaign outside my hometown. New Haven, Philly, Chicago, Boston. Good days, good experiences, quick successes, and many mistakes. I wouldn't surrender these experiences for anything. Let me recall what I saw in New Haven during the Panther trial there, that of Erica Huggins, Bobby Seale, and others. I stayed at a comrade's house that week. How many specifics do you need? Do you want the address, the title of the street, the names of my hosts? That week, there was danger of both police and National Guard attacks upon the protesters. The head of the local Panthers came to the house. He met with the local head of the party in the living room. Whatever the FBI had on those comrades, forget it. I was there. All of us were warned to stay away from the New Haven Green on the approaching Saturday. The party spurred the National Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression, then abandoned it. Women for Racial and Economic Equality, then abandoned it. The National Anti-Imperialist Movement in solidarity with African liberation, then abandoned it. The great magazine Freedom Ways, then abandoned it. Lost chances, successes, followed by emptiness, such is the pattern. Anonymous, I do not have to account to you for anything in my party membership. Your question as to non-publicly corroborated experience smacks to me as the query of an agent. Or at least a really fucking bitter party loyalist troll. The party has blown thousands of chances. But of course, you're correct. Far, far more than appear in published form. Neither the beauty nor the frustration of my experience will leave me. I would rather not tell you which particular city blocks my club was assigned to, but I can say with pride that I helped to map them out with my comrades. I would rather not tell you for which local school boards my club ran candidates, but I was proud to contribute. And now, moot. Be careful whose specific personal observations you elicit. Have some respect. Good answer. So we're going to go back to the chat and wrap it up today. I want to thank Sarah for writing that. It's always good for people to tell their stories. You know, there's a lot of people who, young people today, in their teens and 20s especially, or older, who are realizing, hey, this life doesn't work at all. You got a lot of years ahead of you. What are we going to do? Capitalism is a problem. And they want to get organized. And it would be nice if it was as easy as joining a functional party and just doing it. Unfortunately, we're at the stage where this party apparently needs to be discredited and dismantled so that we can actually build something in its wake that isn't going to be like this again. So yeah, anti-revisionism, this is why it's important, because otherwise you're just going to keep repeating the same stuff over and over.